Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about. Overcoming challenges and obstacles, and how to do that without backing down or running away or hiding or, how do we do that? So this is the reading from today in our Joyous Living Journal, Challenges and Obstacles. There are so many cliches about handling the problems and challenges of life. If life hands you a lemon, make lemonade. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It doesn't matter how many times you fall, just that you get up one more time. Well, the thing about cliches is that there is actually a kernel of truth in each one of them, even if it sounds quaint or we don't want to hear it. You are responsible for the way you respond to obstacles and challenges. You can fold under them or hope someone will handle them for you, or you can confront the challenges in your life with confidence. You have the strength, wisdom, and intelligence of the entire universe on your side. You are capable of making good decisions and moving forward in new ways. Trust yourself. Trust life. Yeah, it was very interesting. Last night, Glenn was talking about how often in churches and in our prayers we pray for strength, wisdom, hope, and courage when we are confronted with something or just having to deal with the life that we find ourselves in and listening to the media and all the things that are going on. And so we pray for strength, hope, and courage. And he was noting that we pray for it week after week after week as if like it runs out, or as if we pray for it and God gives it to us, but only gives us just enough to go for till the next prayer. And of course, we understand that we're actually not asking God, we're not asking from Spirit for something. The strength, hope, and wisdom and intelligence that we need is already present. It's already the truth of our being. It's already the divine nature of reality as it is expressing itself as us. What we have to do is remember that. Remember that and be grateful for the fact that we actually have strength and wisdom and courage to handle and deal with the challenges and obstacles in our life. And I do actually hate to break it to you that really, truly, no matter how spiritual we are going to have challenges and obstacles. Darn, I know. So this was on Facebook the other day. Life always has its ups and downs. If it doesn't, you're dead. I love this. This is great. Right? We think somehow, I'm so spiritual, it's going to be a long, steady uphill climb into nirvana, and I'm never going to ever have another low or another challenge. And usually what that means is also we're not going to have any highs either. And we sort of flatten our life out into, flatline. Right? Boring, thank you. Boring, flatline, same old all the time. There's stuff going on all the time. And the truth is, the sun is always shining. This is absolutely true. And it does rain occasionally. It even storms occasionally. Now, this does not mean the sun isn't shining. It is actually shining behind the clouds. Yes, we actually know that. But it does actually storm sometimes. And in fact, we need the rain. It's important. It's important to the whole system. It's important to the cyclical system of the space-time continuum. And you see, life's up and downs, this is the reality of the human condition. Now, we don't have to have a roller coaster. We don't have to have such lows and such highs that we're slightly maniacs. But we do have an experience of life that's very rich and very full and very real. And so when we talk about overcoming challenges and obstacles, we're constantly doing this dance of thinking about it from the spiritual point of view and the human point of view. And from the small self, the egoic I that's dealing with the space-time continuum, and the spiritual self, that place in consciousness that knows that it is the divine manifestation, the individualized expression of the one that is peeking through into this reality. Ernest Holmes, in our companion book called Living Without Fear, he says this: man and woman is a self-conscious, individualized center of volition, will, and choice, merged into personality. The more deeply we penetrate our nature, the more significant becomes the meaning of that nature. It seems fathomless, boundless, and almost entirely unexplored. If we start with the theory of an infinite potential latent within us, that we have already reached a point in our development where our own conscious determination must, to a degree, measure the possibilities of our future unfoldment, we shall recognize this most significant fact. Our future progress depends upon our ability to consciously cooperate with nature and its laws, and consciously identify ourselves with the spirit of intelligence animating all life. You see, we recognize that there is that reality that is fathomless, boundless, and almost entirely unexplored. And it is that infinite presence, that infinite divine reality that is moving through us into creation, into finite form. But unlike the trees that don't have self-determination, we actually are the portal of self-determination. We are the place where that infinite reality, the macrocosm, is breaking through into self-conscious awareness. He goes on to say, there is this question, however, which naturally arises. Why all the suffering, sorrow, and pain? Why has tragedy accompanied our journey? Well, he says, there is no other way through which true individuality can evolve. There's no other way in which we can discover the truth of who we are, or explore, or express that. Man and woman, we must be let alone to discover ourselves, else be compelled arbitrarily to follow one road, in which case we would be automatons or robots and not individuals. So, do you see the reason that there is pain, suffering, and sorrow in our life, the reason that we have challenges and obstacles in our life, is because we are constantly confronted with the choices of how we are engaging in life. We are consciously confronted with our ability to self-determine how we're going to respond to the fact that the sun is shining or it's raining. How are we going to take that up? How are we going to take that in? How are we going to engage with it? What are we going to think about it and believe about it? That's the place where we are not bound. We're not determined. There's no predestination here. Somehow God willed you to have this experience, this challenge, this problem, whatever it is, this illness, this change in circumstances, this loss of a job or loss of a family member or whatever. There's nothing about that that's a test or that something outside of us is doing it to us. These are part of the experiences that we have in life. The question is always, how do we respond? How do we see it? What are we going to do about it? How are we going to move forward through it? So I want to start out with, as we think about this, we think about our choice and our perspective and the possibility, the opportunity. I want to talk about the challenges that we do, the types of problems that we actually have. And I have very unscientifically just based on this focus group of one, decided how our problems and challenges are sort of generally, how we generally experience them. So here's it is. 10% of our challenges and problems, you know what? They're really real. They are actually real. They're actually happening. Yes, we actually did lose the job, or we actually did stub our toe or break our leg. Yes, I mean, it's actually a real challenge or problem. It did, in fact, happen. 20% of our challenges and problems are when we are confronted with something that we don't know. It's about not knowing how to do something, not knowing how to move forward, not knowing how to live into the greater yet to be. We've decided to start a business. We've decided to become healthy in a relationship. We've decided to practice spiritual living, and we don't actually know how to do that. And so it feels like this big challenge or problem that we're confronting. 20% of our problems, yeah, you know what, it's just you guys. It's all those other people. I struggled with the percentage on this one. I have to admit. But there had to be some left over for the other things. 30% of our problems, I'm convinced, are entirely self-induced. And 20% of them are completely imaginary. So and yet each one of these offers opportunity for spiritual learning, for spiritual growth, and for spiritual practice. Each one of them offers opportunity for that. So let's take a look. I actually want to go backwards. I want to start with these 20% of problems that are completely imaginary. This is fear and doubt run amok. I will never forget the time when I most completely confronted this. Jason, my son, was 8 years old. I'd finally given him a cell phone, I think maybe the year before, and I was really struggling with this whole notion of parenting by cell phone. Yes, very interesting. And I always went home every day at work to meet him after school, and had a couple of his friends came over. We did homework. Because the other friends, their mom was working till dinner time. I would come home, I would hang out with the kids, do all that stuff. We'd have dinner together, and then I would come back and I would work. I would teach class, I would do something, and Jason would then hang out with the friends at their house. And so I'll never forget, one day I was needing to go home, I was getting ready to go home, and I called Jason on the cell phone, and he didn't answer. I called him again, and he didn't answer. It was time to go, and I left, and I'm driving home, and I hit 6:35, and it's not exactly clear to me what happened, but I knew that something terrible had happened. I could feel it. I could feel it in my body and in my being, and I could just, I started to choke up, and it was like, oh my God, something has happened to Jason. Something terrible, horrible, awful has happened to him. And I was trying to think about, well, let's see, where would he have been, and could he have been run over by a car, or had an accident with his bicycle, or gotten lost, or something. I just know something is terrible. By the time I'd gone down 635 and hit 35 to turn up to go to Coppell, I was weeping in my car. I could hardly see to turn on that ramp to get onto 35. I floored it to get home as fast as I possibly could. I was terrified of what I would find. I'm a relatively intuitive person. So this was very concerning to me. I got in, I flung the door open, raced into his room, playing video games. Oh, you called me, Mom? Oh, I guess I didn't hear the phone. I'd had 25 minutes of sheer, unadulterated panic over a completely imaginary event. Now, I've said this before, and sometimes people have a little trouble hearing me, but it is in this context that I want to say again, our feelings can lie to us. Do you see, I had the feeling that something terribly wrong had happened. And I was making it up. Now, sometimes we do have an intuitive knowing, but not this kind of just dramatic sense of, and I realized that what I had gotten caught on was my fear of not being a good enough mother, my doubt that I was doing it right, that he was being parenting by cell phone, I wasn't there. I mean, do you see, my internal fear and doubt had gotten triggered somehow, and I produced this enormous event. And how many times do we do that? And we have this long process, and the next thing you know, we're in somebody else's face going, how dare you think about me like that? And they're like going, we have no clue what you're talking about. That was all in your head. You were having a conversation with yourself, and you were tuned into the wrong radio station. So 20% of our challenges and problems are completely imaginary. So what do we need to do? We need to learn how to imagine differently. We need to learn how to imagine differently. Ernest Holmes says, fear is nothing but faith that the worst possible thing that can happen will happen. Fear is the negative use of faith. That's all it is. You have all the faith you will ever need. We're just negatively using it. So let's imagine that it's okay. Let's imagine that we have this little moment of like, oh, I don't really know what's going on, and let's just imagine that it's okay. And then go check it out. Right? We can always check it out and find out. But let's start imagining it differently. If we find ourselves caught in a moment of fear and doubt, we actually get to decide where our brains go. We get to decide, even though our feelings are getting all worked up, we get to decide, wait, no, I'm going to actually see Jason at home. He's probably on a video game. He's probably got his cell phone, tucked under the covers, and he can't hear it. It'll be fine. I'll find out when I get home. Breathe. Okay, breathe. Let's just imagine it differently. We have such incredible power in our imagination. And do you know, our bodies and our minds don't know the difference between a real and imagined experience. That's why I was panicked and weeping driving my car with no evidence at all that anything was wrong. Imagine it differently. We can use our imagination to see ourselves overcoming the obstacle. We can use our imagination to imagine what it would feel like if we knew what to do, if we knew how to respond, if we actually were seeing this whole event differently. So if 20% of our problems are completely imaginary, let's imagine them differently. Okay, now 30% of our problems are self-induced. We could say 50% of our problems are self-induced because it would include this first 20% I just talked about. But this 30% of our problems are self-induced. How do we self-induce problems? Negative self-talk. Negative self-talk, negative beliefs. I can't really do that. I can't believe that's happening. This always happens to me. If it's not one thing, it's another. On and on it goes. This negative self-talk that we have. And in psychology, they call this the self-fulfilling prophecy. You are expecting it not to go well. Hello? The likelihood of it not going well has just dramatically increased. Now, not having negative self-talk doesn't guarantee you that it's going to be okay or perfect. But I promise you, you won't be adding the expectation of it not working out. Or you won't be adding the expectation of you not being able to do it well. We have so many thoughts, so many ideas, so many ways in which we expect things not to work out. These are our habitual ways of thinking and behaving. Things like eating and exercising that we don't do. And so we don't have the capability of responding to life from a healthy, whole place. We expect to be hurt. We expect not to have enough. We're constantly comparing ourselves with someone else and feeling like we're not good enough, or we're trying to be like them. We're trying to be like somebody we're not. We have tons of false beliefs that we've learned as kids. And all of these things we've talked about in the past, this is all the software that's running in the background, that's been installed over time. And it's all that stuff that's eating up all of your RAM while you're trying to control your imagination, make your intention clear, stay focused, and there's all this stuff going on in the background. And it's generating a false picture of reality. And it keeps us from responding with strength, courage, and wisdom to the challenges that we're faced with. So, what do we do with our self-induced challenges when we find ourselves confronted with our self-induced challenges? Well, we do two things. First of all, we break the old habit, because that's all they are, and we learn a new thought. We learn to have a new thought about it. We break the habit of saying, I can't, and we learn the new thought, Spirit as me can. We break the habit of, I'm not good enough, I don't know how to do it. Well, and we learn the new thought, Spirit as me does know. Spirit as me is good enough, big enough, full enough, powerful enough. Do you see, it's a twofold process with these self-induced problems and challenges that we have. The first thing is we have to recognize that we are now just in the habit of responding the way that we respond. We don't actually have any evidence that it's true. We just are in the habit of responding that way. And so we have to say no to those thoughts and feelings. No to those self-induced negative ways of looking at things. No, you know what? I am not going to drag myself down again. No, I am not going to think badly about that person. No, I am not going to worry about this project right now. No, I'm not going to do it. I am going to see the truth. I'm going to know the truth. I'm going to feel the presence of God in my life. Do you see? I'm saying no to the old habit, and I'm putting in its place a new thought. So we can have self-induced learning and growing and ability to handle the challenges in our life. So the other thing I want to say about this breaking of a habit and learning something new, I think about it like learning a new piece on the piano. I've played a lot of different instruments in my life, and I can remember when I first started to learn how to play the piano, and I got really, really good at the really simple pieces, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and, really good at some little things like that. And then the first time that my piano teacher put like a piece of classical music up on the piano stand, and I thought, that is so hard, I'm never going to be able to do it. Well, it's nonsense. Of course I'm going to be able to do it. It's actually not a challenge or a problem yet, unless I make it. It's simply something that I have to practice, right? We have to practice a new way of being. We have to practice into the new thing. We have to practice this. I had to practice that new piece. And when I first started it, I wasn't very good at it. Whereas I'd been really good at Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And now I was doing this next piece, and I was not very good at it. Practice, that's all it took. And so I'm going to do this one first, and then we'll carry that thought through. Okay, so the other 20%, other people. What's the problem with other people? What's the problem with other people? They don't listen to us, they don't do what we tell them to do, and they don't change the way we think they should. Is this not correct? Right? Really, that's the only problem we have with other people, is they won't change to our specifications. If they would just do that, it would be fine. Right? This is the problem with other people. And so that is why it's a problem, because we need for them to be different. We want for them to change. And we find ourselves challenged and struggling with the situation because we so desperately want it to change. How's it working for you? What do you think? Not so good, huh? Yeah, because we can't change anybody out there, can we? We can only change ourselves. Now, we can be around people that we know are growing and changing and learning, and that is lovely and wonderful, but that's their business. It's not our business, that's their business. Our business is our own growth and change, not theirs. And so, it is our engagement with trying to make them be different that is what causes the struggle, the challenge. So, my answer? Love them or leave them. Sounds like a country song. I think I'm going to start a new thought. I'm going to write a new thought country song. Love them or leave them. You see, the problem is, it is our need for them to be different that is causing the challenge to us. It's our need for them to be different. So, it is our resistance to who they are and how they're showing up in life. If we move to a place of acceptance that this is actually who they are and this is actually how they're showing up in life, unless they choose to do something different. If we can move to acceptance about that, do you see, we stop struggling with trying to change it. And we accept, no, actually, this is the reality of them as I'm experiencing it. I had an executive coach that said to me once years ago, it was really one of the most profound things she's ever said to me. She said, Petra, people will show you who they are, and they will teach you how they will behave. You should believe them. Okay, I did not laugh when I heard that. That was like a lightning bolt. You should believe them and stop needing or wanting them to be different. They are showing you who they are and how they are going to behave unless they choose to change or be different. So, what are our choices? If the situation is not going to change and we don't want to struggle with it anymore, we have two choices in accepting that this is the way it is. In accepting it, our choices are to no longer be in some relationship with it, no longer be around it, or learn to love it. Those are our choices. Because it's not a choice to change them. So I took this into my relationship with my dad. I've talked to you about this before. I took this into my relationship with my dad. It was actually in the context of my dad that this conversation happened. And that was when I began realizing, oh wait, if I stay longer than 3 days, that's as long as I can love my father without needing for him to be different. Okay? And you know what? That was a revelation. I can be with him for 3 days, and I can let him be the rageaholic alcoholic that he is, and I can love him for who he is, and 3 days is about as long as I can do that. And I actually have to go into my room at 8 o'clock at night, because after 8 it goes like massively downhill after that. So that was my leave him. I can love him to this point, and then I do actually have to leave him. Because after that point, I'm so triggered that I need for him to be different. Because I can't be in that rageaholic, alcoholic environment. I choose not to. So, do you see? So it's love him or leave him, right? It's intended to be like, it's intended to make you think. It doesn't necessarily mean it's like a black and white love him or leave him. Do you see? But what's left is if I choose not to leave, then what's left is to love. To love and accept. Wow, this is actually the way this person is showing up. Yes, of course, we get to talk about it. We get to negotiate things, ask for agreements, talk about, how we might be growing together or what way that person's growing, what way I'm growing. We can have all of those conversations. But in the final analysis, particularly where there's this big struggle, problem, or effort, whether it's a boss or an employee or a partner or a family member or whoever it is, really seeing them for who they are allows us to draw the appropriate boundary and to see them with love. And do you see then, it's not a problem anymore. It was no longer a problem for me to visit my dad. I had found that love him, leave him, perfect balance in which it enabled me to accept him for precisely who he was and to have an amazing relationship the last 10 years of his life. "20% of our challenges is from not knowing." It's so amazing to me that we've forgotten how to learn. We've forgotten how awkward it is to try something new. Think about it. How awkward is it the first time that you decide that this person who's really frustrating you, that you're going to actually respond lovingly? And you don't really know how to do that. It's kind of weird. And doesn't that mean they're getting away with something? Or they're not getting to experience how inappropriate their behavior is, or whatever. Do you see what I'm saying? And we're like, okay, I gotta love them. I don't really know how to do that. It's weird. It's weird the first time we decide to not complain. And then we talk to our friend on the phone who does nothing but complain. What are we gonna talk about? A lot of silence. A lot of uncomfortable and awkward silence. Don't really want to go there. No, we don't really want to talk about that. No, I really don't want to talk about that. And do you see, it's weird. We've forgotten how to learn. And so it feels like a challenge or a problem. No, really, it's just the process of learning something new, trying it on, and beginning to practice it. And so this is an opportunity for us not to be afraid to make mistakes, to keep trying, to keep practicing, and to keep moving forward. These are not really challenges and problems. The truth is they're major opportunities. And so we can reframe it by staying focused and intentional about where we're going. I'm going to learn how to respond with love. I'm going to learn how to apply this spiritual principle in my life. I'm going to learn how to play the piano. I'm going to learn how to have a business. I'm going to learn how to be in a healthy relationship. I'm going to learn how to eat well. Whatever it is. Do you see? It's only a problem and a challenge when we hold it that way. But when we're focused and intentional that this is what we're doing, now we see, oh, that's all that's happening. We simply don't know yet how to do it. So we practice learning and growing and letting it be okay. Remembering what it was like when we were a kid and we were trying new things. You know all that homework they sent you home with? That was so that you would practice it. All the weird stuff that's happening, all these imaginary challenges, all the self-induced challenges, all the people that we're struggling with, all that stuff, every bit of it is an opportunity for us to practice. It's like doing our sums. It's like taking homework home. It's all an opportunity for us to practice living from our spiritual principles and our spiritual truth. And you know what? 10% of the problems are real. They're really real. We really do experience death, divorce, loss of jobs, moving. Even if we want to move, moving is a big deal. We have whatever the 10 major stressors are in life, and we actually have those experiences. Those 10%, they're actually real, and they're actually happening. But again, it's all in how we respond to it. Now, in Science Mind and Spiritual Living, we do not teach that you have to have problems to grow. We don't teach that you're having these experiences so that you become more spiritual, so that you can learn this lesson, so that something can make itself. We don't think God is testing you. We don't think you're supposed to be having these experiences. One of my mentors, Virginia Seville, she says, you can learn just as much by being healthy, wealthy, and wise as you can learn by being sick, poor, and unhappy. Which do you choose? No, we don't believe that these things are done to us by anything out there, or that necessarily we've even necessarily attracted them to us. But they happen. It's part of the human condition. It's part of that ups and downs that says you're actually alive and here and living in the space-time continuum, having a human experience. So the question is, what are we going to do? How are we going to respond to it? Are we going to fold under it? Are we going to collapse under it? Are we going to say, oh, this is a terrible, horrible, and wrong thing, and I must have somehow deserved it? No. What we're going to do is we're going to take all the opportunities that we've had to practice on all the imaginary, all the people, all the self-induced, all of the other ways in which we've engaged in problems and opportunities, problems and challenges, and turn them into opportunities for learning and growth. We're going to take all of those. Do you see all of that practice? And now we can apply it here, when the rubber really meets the road, when we really are confronted with a real challenge and a real problem. We actually have learned how to control our imagination, how to imagine a way through this, imagine that we will actually survive it, get to the other side of it. We've learned how to see it differently, have a different perspective on it. We've learned how to change our thought about it. We've learned how to not have the habitual response of anger or fear or doubt or running away. We've learned how to engage with it differently. Do you see all the practice that we've done actually gives us the understanding that we have the strength and wisdom and intelligence to walk through the challenge or obstacle that we are now really confronted with. And as we do this process, as we allow ourselves to move through this, we have an opportunity to demand that good comes of it. Now, you hear us say this a lot. Oh, it's all good. Well, it's good. Well, it'll be good. It's all right. Actually, I want to be very, very, very clear that we are not saying that this challenge or problem is a good thing. It's a good thing you broke your leg. How nice. Okay, really, what are we, idiots? It is not a good thing that you broke your leg. But we can demand from the universe that good comes of this thing. And we can not only demand it, we can actually look at our lives and look back at some of those very real challenges and problems that were turning points in our life, and we can point to the good that came out of them. One of the very real challenges and problems for me was I had lived in Seattle for 17 years. It's the home of my heart. I had moved into a cabin in the woods. I was going to raise my son out there in the wilds and, live sort of a hippie back to the land kind of life. And go a couple times a week into Seattle, I was teaching at the ministerial school there and being part of the community there. And just, I had it all planned out and figured out, except that I realized that I couldn't actually make enough money. The little shop that I owned didn't make enough money, and I couldn't cobble together enough work. So I called up my mother in Texas. She'd moved here and said, I really need help. I want to come home. I want you to help me. I don't want to put my son in daycare from 6 in the morning till 6 at night, so I'd like for your help. And good enough, she said yes. So that's what brought me to Texas. And I was furious for 3 years. I was absolutely furious at God. I thought I'd come to my place. I thought my life had unfolded to the absolute pinnacle of my dream and that I was going to live out my bliss and my dream life. And I was so mad at God for 3 years. And then I began looking around, and I began getting involved. And now I've been a part of this church for 20 years. 2 months after I got here, they asked me to be the interim minister. I've been a part of this church for 20 years. I've been the senior minister of this center for 15 years. And if I'd stayed in Seattle, I wouldn't have you. And I wouldn't have the experience of having built this community. And I wouldn't have the experience of us having built this space together. And I wouldn't have all the experiences of the amazing people that I've met and the relationships and the love. And I wouldn't have the experience of the astonishing opportunities that I've had because of how much being in this community has grown me. And all the work that I've done with the national community and all the work that I've done internationally, all of that would be different if I hadn't moved to Texas. Oh my God, so much good. And that's what we can do. Do you see? We can begin to look back at our life and we can see those turning points. And if we will let them be good, be a good for us, they will turn into that. And we will see it. It's only when we stay stuck in them as a problem, if we resist the growth and the learning and the possibilities that are available to us, it's only when we do that that they stay a problem. So the 10% that are real problems, we demand that good must come of it. Think of the people that you know that have survived cancer. And later they're able to say, wow, so much good has come out of this. People who have gotten divorced and later say, wow, unbelievable good has come out of this. People who have changed, lost jobs, found whole new careers because they've demanded that good must come of it. Not that the thing itself is good, not that God is testing us, not that we have to have this experience to have this good, but now that we've had this experience, let's demand good of it. And let's apply all of the practices, all the spiritual principles, all the things that we've learned through all the other challenges and problems. Let's apply them here and see what a difference it makes. If you are reading the journal with me, I want to point you back to a couple days ago, January 16th, effort and struggle. Sustained effort is what's required, not struggle. Sustained effort is effort and struggle are two different things. Effort is the focus, discipline, and consistency in thought, word, and action. Struggle means you are in resistance to that which is causing inner pain and anguish. Struggle means you are resisting the steps it takes to climb the mountain. Effort is what it takes to climb the mountain. So we want to release struggle and move into sustained effort. Sustained effort in our consciousness, in our creativity, in our intention, in our focus, and in our ongoing practice of the spiritual principles in our own life. This is how we overcome any obstacle or challenge that we're faced with. Let us pray. Just inviting you to take a breath now with me. Go within. Taking a moment to be grateful. Let us be grateful for the spiritual truths that we know. Let us be grateful for the spiritual practices that we have. Let us be grateful for the spiritual principles that we can apply. And truly, let us be grateful for the opportunities that we have to learn and to grow. Each one of them is for our greater good. And each one of them contributes to our own health and well-being, which then in turn contributes to others. So we come finally to our challenges and obstacles with gratitude. Gratitude for the possibility that is available within each one of them if we are awake to it. So we wake up this morning, we wake up and we allow ourselves to be available, to be present. And we do, in fact, call it good. And so it is. Hi. I'm Petra Weldes, Senior Minister of the Center for Spiritual Living in Dallas, and we're delighted that you found us here on the web. You can find our Sunday services on our website by every Wednesday, and we love that you can look at us online and explore these spiritual teachings. Feel free to explore our archives. It goes back a number of years with lots of special topics and amazing speakers. You can also sign up for our email news, My Daily Words, and my blog, Spiritual Living with Dr. Petra. If you're looking for a spiritual community, come visit us. Or if you're just in Dallas, drop on by. We'd love to give you a hug. Welcome home.